Last year, I spent 322 days on the road. I flew 350,000 miles. The moon is 250. All the things you probably hate about traveling are warm reminders that I am home.
I'm checking here. I'm measuring. How many miles do you have?
How many
right
miles
now?
do I have?
Yeah.
Bought a bunch of tickets for my mom and dad and siblings, and so they're back down.
Oh, they're back down now.
They're back down.
How much money you got in your bank account?
Not much. It's not looking good.
Okay, well then I got more miles than you got money.
It's 10 million miles.
Fewer than 10 people have done it in
So it is
American
real.
Airlines history.
What kind of relationship do you have?
You know that moment when you look into somebody's eyes and you can feel them staring into your soul and the whole world goes quiet?
Yes.
Right, well, I don't.
What about this story did you love?
I loved all these characters. I love the questions that this film posed. Yeah. You know, I love Jason as a director, as a storyteller. I love the characters that he invents. You know, with all their eccentricities and quirks and deficiencies.
What is it about George that made him the perfect, actor to be your central character?
If you're gonna have a guy who fires people for a living in your movie, you better be pretty damn charming, and no one's more charming than George.
Is he a good kisser?
You know, we had two very specific kinds of kisses that were very unrequited and gentle, if I must say.
So what'd you do when you found out that you were going to be acting opposite George Clooney?
When I told my mom, it was like, had to hold my ear away from the phone. And when I told my dad, it was just silent. But I knew that he was really excited. Like, I could tell just just hearing him breathe on the other end of the line. I think I do that same thing where I was just sort of like, they were like, yeah, so, they're gonna offer you the role in this movie. And I was just like, okay.
I am a passenger.
I work for a company that lends me out to cowards that don't have the courage to sack their own employees, and for good reason.
Who are you, man?
Because people do crazy stuff when they get fired. I'm gonna need your key card.
Your character has to fire people. That's basically what you do for a living. How was that for you?
In between the time that I was cast and that we started, a few friends of mine were laid off, and it kind of really dawned on me that I was essentially sort of playing the Grim Reaper. She expects it to be easy. She expects to be able to see these people as statistics and look at them as weaker than she is. She thinks that she's worked harder than they have, and that's what, gives her the right to be in this position. And, over the course of the movie, she, really realizes that she's gonna have to see them as people, and she has to basically reassess her entire life in this film.
In approaching the actual direction, I realized that these scenes I'd written about people losing their jobs were satirical, but they weren't honest. And I wanted to treat job loss with authenticity. So we reached out to people in St. Louis and Detroit and found 60 people to put on film an interview about what it's like to lose your job in this kind of economy. And we also fired them on camera, and 22 of them are in the finished movie.
I thought it was brilliant that you took Anna Kendrick, the Twilight girl, and then you said, you know what, I'm gonna pair her, I'm gonna put Clooney underneath her.
I have never thought of Anna Kendrick for a second as the Twilight girl. That's an insult in my book.
I'm just teasing. I'm kidding. She's Tony nominated. She's got some singing chops, and you make her sing badly.
Yeah, that's probably the best acting she did in the movie.
I'll let her know that.
That's the toughest accomplishment. She's such a naturalist, and she's brilliant, and it would have been impossible to cast that part with anybody else.
I'm not really sure how long this whole exercise is supposed to last. No, I don't even think of him that way. He's old.